Michael, it is a pleasure. It is a treat. It is an honor to speak with you today, my friend. I can call you that. We're new friends. Man, it's good to see you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. That's a little over the top, but I don't know how honorable it be. We will let the fans decide after they hear this interview.
I think they're going to love it because I've got a lot of. I'm interviewing you today as a huge Burt Gummer fan. So we're going to jump right into it. My first one is, what is the biggest thrill for you to play this bigger than life character, Burt Gummer?
There's nothing quite as exciting as comedy, and as I've said time and again, I think Burt Gummer is like mining comic gold. He is comedy is about extremes, right? Comedy is about excess in some ways. And nobody's as extreme as Bert. His obsessive compulsive disorder, his paranoia, his abject fear, is what takes him over the top. He's just, Armageddon is just around the corner. He's a man who has basically been given no map, and he feels he's in a minefield. And so the world is a minefield. He has no map. And so this is one of the things I also find endearing about him, because to me, this is a very fearful and vulnerable man who's covered himself with all this armor in order to get through a very dangerous world. And so I have a kind of tender place in my heart for Bert, who is basically terrified, I think,
You're cracking me up. When did you find out that Burt Gummer Day, that he has his own day? This is real.
About a week ago.
Did you really? April 14th is Burt Gummer Day.
I had no idea. I'm trying to decide how I will now celebrate. I'm sure I'll find a way. I think I don't know who started this. I have no idea. It's great. I mean, what fun.
It is. I mean, the fact that the fans were so responsive to this character, now 7 movies in. When you did the first one, did you have any idea that this was going to go for 7 films? And hopefully, no spoilers today, but hopefully beyond?
Well, no spoilers. But as I always tell people, sales drive sequels. And, this business, show business, is about 5% show and 95% business. So it all boils down to how much money people spend. And, if the audience is there, people can't resist a cash cow. I'll just say that. To answer your first question, being an actor, I think I'm a fatalist, meaning I always assume that this will be whatever I do will be my last job. And 2, when I get on the job, people will quickly discover they've miscast me, fire me, and hire someone else. So that's just the way that's a little like Bert would think, actually. So, that he's not long for this world. But I had no idea. What I knew at the time, and again, this was filmed in 1989, released in 1990. I was just thrilled to be doing something very different from Family Ties. I loved Family Ties, but the question in every actor's mind after a long-running, very popular show was, would audiences accept me as someone else? Will casting directors, producers accept me as a different sort of character? Will there be roles after this, or will I be sort of tucked into that little frame of reference that people had after 7 years? And Family Ties fortunately answered that question for me. Yes, there would be life after Family Ties, and indeed a very different sort of character. So of course, I was just thrilled at that. And then of course, the prospect of working with Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward, who I had always loved as well. Reba McEntire, in one of her first acting jobs, Reba was just magnificent. And the entire ensemble, I think, was just so beautifully cast that, it was, well, no pun intended, perfection,
I have to ask about the mustache. It's just Classic. How long did it take to grow? And the second question is, did you name it? Like Bert Jr. would have been perfect. I knew. I was like, I mean,
No, I have never named my mustache, nor would I trust somebody who does name their mustache. I would consider them off their meds. But no, I never named the mustache. I did. It just seemed very right for Bert. Particularly, sort of drooping a little bit on the sides. I just seen guys in bars who looked like that, and I thought, don't mess with that SOB. And I looked at Bert, and I thought the mustache would be perfect. People sometimes ask about the Atlanta Hawks hat, and that simply came about because I think the wardrobe designer came to me early on the first film and said, what should he wear? What should he wear for everyday wear? Obviously he's not going to go around combat fatigues every day, but what should he wear? And I said, I think it should be a baseball cap. I think it should be a sports team. And I think it should be Southern. And those were my three answers, a cap, a Southern team of some sort. And for some reason, the Atlanta Hawks sent us like 30 caps. And so we started wearing them. And over the years, that changed. In the last two films, I've been wearing a Chicago Cubs hat because when I'm a Chicagoan by birth, and I was raised there. And when they finally won the pennant, I could no longer resist. And I went to Universal and I said, look, if you guys don't mind, I would really like to wear a Cubs hat. It just, I don't know, it seems so Bert, sort of these guys who have been Bert is in his cellar all the time, and the Cubs have never left the cellar for over 100 years. And I said, it just seems so perfect. And I'm thrilled. And they said, sure, wear a Cubs hat.
What was it like to work with Napoleon Dynamite? He's a perfect Jimmy in this movie. Jon Heder is
Jon Heder was just a hell of a lot of fun. He's one of the most good-natured people I've ever seen. I mean, I can't recall him getting angry. Now, I'm sure there must have been, because everybody gets angry with me at least once on a shoot, but I don't recall Jon ever getting pissed off at anything. Jon was just great, fun ideas, just a wonderful humor about the guy. Very gentle but fun, and could get down and dirty when he has to. But basically, he's a really good guy, very accepting guy, and he's just a great guy to work with.
It's funny because that was actually when my mom saw him on the screen. She screamed, "It's Napoleon Dynamite!" I'm like, "Mom, it's a movie. You don't talk." She was
no, that's excited. Look. For a long time, I was associated with Steven Keaton. I totally get that. It's like and Napoleon Dynamite was a hard act to follow. It was so well done and such a great little cult classic. So now he's been a part of 2 cult films, and we'll see what happens if there's an 8th. Who knows?
I love it.
It was an absolute pleasure.
You brought up Steven Keaton. You've mentioned Family Ties. Thank you, because I have questions. You helped form my childhood. So my first question, then I'll explain the question here in a second, is what if Family Ties was taking place like right now in this environment?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I think it would be a great model for America, because Family Ties was filmed during the Reagan years in the 1980s, when people had vastly different ideas about the progressive movement, the liberal movement, and the conservative movement. But those were days when you could work things out. People were not so extreme that they were in their separate corners and wouldn't come out to deal with the other guys. One of my favorite stories is, by the way, we were one of maybe Ronald Reagan's favorite television show, and he came that close to actually making an appearance on our show. But of course, he had other things to do. But he loved the show. He and Nancy watched it apparently every week, and but those were the days when Ronald Reagan, the staunch conservative, and Tip O'Neill, Speaker of the House from Boston, very progressive, very liberal, could sit down, these 2 Irishmen, over a glass of Irish whiskey and hammer out their differences, hammer out a compromise, and let's say, how do we get this thing moving? You give a little, I'll give a little, we'll find a path forward. And Family Ties, I felt was very much the same way, in that there was always reconciliation, if you will. We had strong feelings on both sides. These very liberal parents, the far more conservative kids, a boy with, the William F. Buckley's poster on his wall, who wanted to conquer Wall Street, make $1 million. One of the exciting things about watching Family Ties is that we all settled our differences. There were, again, reconciliation. The things that held us together were far more important than the things that pulled us apart. And to be honest with you, I think that holds for Tremors in a way too. One of the reasons I think Tremors is still successful after 3 decades is that it's a kinder, gentler monster movie, if ever there was such a thing. And what I mean by that is, first of all the kills result from monsters, not from other people. People don't kill other people in this thing. They threaten, they bluster, they, cajole. But ultimately, it's very old-fashioned. If there's a body count, and there is, it's a result of the monsters. The people, on the other hand, is this disparate, sometimes crazy group of people who wouldn't even converse with each other, let alone be friends. Very disparate ways of looking at the world, their worldviews, their expertise, their points of view, and yet they come together to defeat a common enemy. So I look at this and I think, wow, if that isn't a sermon for COVID, I don't know what is, coronavirus. And so I started thinking about that as I started doing the Tremors interviews for Tremors 7, Shrieker Island. And I thought to myself, I've been in 2 major sort of projects, the Family Ties and this, in which reconciliation and working together is at the heart of the piece. So they both pieces, I think, have a lot of heart. Bert is the type of guy who, time and again, you'll see this in the films, he will say to somebody, you are an asshole. You've got this all wrong. You didn't listen to me. You're a fool. You are totally incompetent, but I'm going to save your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm here to save you, despite the fool that you are. And the other thing I'll say about Bert too, in these contentious times is, again, I think this is very family friendly. In 7 films, Bert never intentionally turns his gun on another human being. The guns are for monsters, not for other people. So Bert is kind of old-fashioned and heroic in that way. He's not about going after people. He's going after monsters. Now, he'll deride people. He'll say you're a fool. He'll give them a tough time and give them some hard talk. But ultimately, he'll say, I'll also save your backside if I have to.
The chemistry in this movie, in all the films, is just amazing. So the casting was perfect. Putting everybody together, it just works. Even when you're not, there were parts when I looked at I thought to myself, should I be laughing or should I be crying? Because, do you know what I mean? That's
like, just what you want from a Tremors film. Yes, right. I thought, there's some wonderful people in this. Jackie Cruz in this, the singer, actress, and Richard Brake, who from England, who plays my nemesis in this. But again, Richard ignores all my advice. He's a nasty dude, and yet Bert is there trying to save him and saying, "Come on, give it up, get out of here. Let me help you out." So I think parents can still watch these shows with their kids. I've talked to people who said, we're in our 3rd generation. I watched it with my parents. Now I'm showing it to my kids. And aside from some spicy language here and there, which we definitely have, admittedly so, I think it's got some great values in it in a funny way. Again, people friendly in a certain way.
Michael, I want to close with this. Again, going back to the Family Ties, how special was it for you to work with Michael J. Fox?
It was wonderful. Michael was obviously a wonderful raw talent, but he was also just a wonderful human being. The success of the Back to the Future films never went to his head. He always admitted, he said, look, I knew Family Ties put me on the map, and I was never going to turn my turn my back on that, even when the Back to the Future movies started. He was a good guy. Everybody in that group was wonderful. Again, good casting. It really did feel like a family in some ways, not just the cast, but the crew. When you're together for 7 years like that, it makes a huge difference. I should mention this. Again, this is not just a shameless plug for my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/actor Michael Gross. I mention that because this morning I put something on the page on the 10th of November, a week from tomorrow. We are going to have a Family Ties reunion on Zoom. We are doing an hour-long Zoom special taking for the Actors Fund, which is, there are a lot of actors, since Broadway's closed down, there are a lot of actors who are going through some very hard times right now who weren't fortunate enough to have a television series. They're living hand-to-mouth existences. So it's a benefit for the Actors Fund. Myself, Meredith Baxter, Michael Fox, Mark Price, who played Skippy, the neighbor, Scott Valentine, who played Nick. Yo, Mr. Keaton. Oh, yo, hey. He's going to be there. Tina Yothers. Justine Bateman has not committed yet, but we're hoping to persuade her. But we've got 4 of the 5 of the family, Nick and Skippy. So that's so watch my Facebook page or go to the Actors Fund. It's probably theactorsfund.com to find out more, because this will be a benefit for them. But I post a lot of information about Tremors and other things like that on my Facebook page all the time.
Michael, thank you for sharing that. I will be promoting that like crazy. I do know about that fund. I have several friends that are actors, and I know what's going on in their world, and I'm so thankful. I'm getting goosebumps. I mean, I will be tuning in and doing what I can to help, because wow, that's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you for doing
it. Well, it is. It's a tough time. Nobody, the president keeps saying, "Can we get back to work? Can we get back to work?" No one wants to get back to work more than the actors who want to fill those hundreds of seats in an auditorium. And yes, we fix COVID and then we will go back to work. It doesn't work the other way around. We don't want our audience, there's an old expression, you walk off and say, "How was the audience tonight?" "I killed him. I killed him." We don't want that to be, we don't want that to actually happen. We want our audiences safe. So as soon as we get that vaccine, as soon as we follow the rules, we'll be back to work, and we are ready to go.